listening to Holy Health, the podcast that brings you the latest in health ideas and technology across the spectrum of fields, whether physical, emotional, environmental, spiritual, financial, mental, sexual, political. Your effort and attitude play a role. While ultimately our fate is up to God, how we get there is determined by us. As it says in Kohelet, there is nothing new under the sun. We get that everything can be found in Torah. Our goal is to empower you with knowledge that may help you make better lifestyle choices. I'm your host, Dara, and I'm looking forward to taking this journey with you. Hey guys, I just wanted to jump on here quickly before we get into our interview with Dr. Perry Nickelston to let you know that next weekend on February 24th and 25th, Dr. Perry is running one of his Lymphatic Mojo courses. And if you get on, and sign up before the actual course, which is going to be taught on Zoom, it will be running over Shabbat. You'll be able to catch, if you're here in Israel, you'll be able to catch a good portion of the second day live. And if you're in America, you'll be able to catch a portion, at least, of the first day live. And either way, you get the entire thing on Zoom. So if you see that you've been having issues or this is something you'd like to delve into further, whether you're a practitioner or whether you're just a regular person looking to do the best they can for themselves, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. And Dr. Nickelston did also show us how to clean the lymph system in a couple minutes a day. So you may actually want to check out this week's episode on YouTube. Just bear in mind that I did not have a great camera at the time of our interview, so the picture won't be as crystal clear as it will be in coming episodes. Have a great day and enjoy the interview. So hello, everyone, and welcome to Holy Health. My guest today is Dr. Perry Nickelston. Dr. Perry is a doctor of chiropractic who graduated in 1997 from Palmer Chiropractic University. He has over 25 years of experience in the healthcare industry, mastering techniques in movement assessment and diagnosis. He's certified in both the functional movement screen, the selective functional movement assessment, as well as neurokinetic therapy. He uses programs designed to help find the source of your pain, hence his name, Stop Chasing Pain. He's a member of the board of directors and a medical staff advisor for the American Institute of Medical Laser Application, and he teaches Class 4 laser to healthcare professionals all over the world. He writes for multiple publications as well. He's been an instructor for neurokinetic therapy, rock tape, and I'm pretty sure immunoneurofrequency. I could go on, but it might take all of our time. Welcome, Dr. Perry. How are you today?
Thank you very much for having me on. It's wonderful to be here.
It's absolutely my pleasure, and I really appreciate it. Before we get started hearing a little from you, I just wanted to tell you something interesting that I found in this week's Parsha, or this week's Torah portion. And I'm going to thank H.com and Rabbi Dr. Mordechai Schiffman, as this was his idea that I found in something that he wrote. So this week's portion that we read is Shmot. It's the first portion of the second book of the Old Testament. And in this portion, Moshe becomes the leader of the Jewish people. And it said one of the things it says is the first thing Moshe does is he goes out amongst the people to witness their suffering. And our commentators emphasize Moshe's ability to empathize. And it really talks about how he doesn't just see their suffering, but he feels their suffering. He's someone who thinks and feels and acts to help those in pain. And so I think that it's really fitting that I'm interviewing you today, as you've really spent your career helping those suffering, finding different ways to get out of pain. So I just thought that was very, very fitting. So, yeah,
I'm going to agree with you on that one. That was quite lovely, and in more ways than one. People, I find one of the things that brings them into healthcare as a profession is usually something from their own suffering that brings them there, or I'm actually finding it's more often suffering of a loved one that they were lost and couldn't find help somewhere, or maybe they got help from the chosen profession that someone went into, because I've also discovered that I think people will do far more most often to help someone else than they will themselves. And yeah, for me, that resonates a lot because, I mean, I've suffered some, obviously. I mean, all humans do, right? But I got into chiropractic because I had lower back pain and nobody could get me walking again but chiropractic. But I'd always thought there was some missing piece to something that I was searching for. Even after I became a chiropractor, there was like a void missing, I think. And I ended up finding it later. I think the universe found a way to teach it to me through my suffering, where I got really, really sick about 5 or 6 years ago. And traditional medicine really struggled to help me and figure out why. And I basically had to end up rescuing myself by finding my own answers to it. And I hit rock bottom, honestly. I had a nervous breakdown, a physical breakdown. I had to leave all that was near and dear to me from practicing and teaching. And I was very resentful in the beginning of that journey, but I used to use the word reframe, but now I use the term re-meeting. And somebody told me a phrase once that you can't change what happened to you, but you can change the meaning of what happened to you. And so I found that is, okay, I really believe this now, that I needed to go through that in order to help other people, because I see things in ways that I never would have seen it before if I didn't go through it, if I didn't experience it, and then coming through the other side of it. And I believe that, whatever you choose to believe in the world, that they put me through it because they knew I was strong enough to get through it, but I was going to be a person that would take that and use it to help others so they wouldn't suffer as much. And that's pretty much where I found my purpose. It took me, I'm 55, took me quite a few years to find it, but I finally did. I know that was a long story, but your
Not at all.
in the beginning really resonated with me. So,
well, I have to say that we're also, taught that God only gives things to people who can handle them, that you only get as much as you can handle, which I think sometimes looking around and seeing what different people go through is amazing. But I have to say also, meaning 5 years ago really wasn't that long ago. I wanted to just throw in a quick story about how I actually know you, or the first time I met you. And I don't think you'll remember, but maybe you'll remember this incident. And I know I've told you this before, but, I was a pretty new PT graduate, and I was lucky enough to go to work for Evan Chait at Kinetic Physical Therapy in Ramsey, New Jersey. And every week we would have these clinical education sessions. And one week, Evan told us, I'm bringing in the chiropractor from across the street. And we were all thinking, come on, a chiropractor, we're physical therapists. And at that meeting, you started talking about soft tissue and movement and all of these different things. And you just wowed me. And I left thinking, wow, if I was ever sending anyone to a chiro, it would be that guy. I mean, that dude knows what he's talking about. And that was back in, I want to say, about 2008 or 2009. And in 2010, I moved back to Israel. And in 2011, I went back to the States to visit for the summer. And Stephen Blaney, who'd been one of my bosses at Kinetic, I went to meet him, and he said, you have to see what Dr. Perry is doing. You have to follow him on Stop Chasing Pain on Facebook. And I started following you, and just everything you were saying resonated with me, and I'm like, I need to know how my toe flexors could be inhibiting my neck, and what is he talking about, and rock tape and all of these different things. I'd heard of tape, but then I got into rock tape from that. But my point is that, you've been stop chasing pain for a really long time. And I had no idea that you were suffering just 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know if you were public about it at the time. I know I had no idea. So, and I've watched how your career, pretty much everything that I am, we also have a concept of hakarat hatov, which is sort of recognizing the good. And I guess basically gratitude. And honestly, when I look at my career and the way my career has been shaped and turned, and the fact that I own my own business now, due to the things that I've learned, you are one of the people that I have so much gratitude towards, because I really followed the things that you were saying, and that led me to learn the things that I've learned. And, like, I didn't know which way to go with what I wanted to talk to you today, because there's just so many interesting facets to your career. But one of the things that you've been talking about, and I guess this factors into what you are talking about yourself, is the courses that you started in the lymph system. And I assume that this has part of, what you're talking about in your own journey.
Yes, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you very much for the kind words. That really means a lot. Yeah, in the beginning, my journey started a lot by looking at human movement, right? And then because it was a piece of the puzzle that I was looking for in the beginning of, okay, well, I'm treating people in my office and I'm doing all these wonderful things to them. Why does stuff keep coming back all the time? Like,
Right.
What am I missing? Is it something that I'm not doing, or is it something that I'm not telling them, or is it something that they're doing that they don't know that they're doing? And I thought to myself, well, what's the one thing everybody has to do when they leave my office? They got to move. And then maybe I should look at how they're moving, because nobody really pays attention to that, right? Until something hurts.
Right.
When something hurts, you really pay attention to how you're moving. And a lot of times you stop moving altogether when something hurts, which is okay in the beginning. But, what they found through science is that one of the worst things you can do for pain is to stop moving. You want to move as soon as you can, and as often as you can. And it doesn't have to be the part of the body that hurts, right? Because pain is that awareness signal that, it tells you, all right, I need you to change something up right now. Right. And we don't often know what that is, but the body's just telling you, I don't care what it is. A good place to start is how you move, right? And then that was helpful in my journey, but there was still something missing, like,
right.
I was still stuck looking at the musculoskeletal system, basically right. The bones and the muscles and the fascia. And I totally had forgotten all of the other magnificent systems of the body that we usually don't pay attention to. One, because I fell into that whole category of, well, I'm a chiropractor. This is the kind of my lane right here, right? And then I didn't really look at organ systems or so much into the immune system at that time. And I think that when I got sick, that's when I had to explore other answers, because what I had learned up to that point wasn't enough to get myself better. So it was a piece of the puzzle. Right. And then traditional medicine, they were just doing what they were trained to do, but that wasn't the route that I needed to go either. And I was unfortunately getting worse. And when I hit rock bottom, I knew that I had to look in places that I never looked before. Right. And right. That's when I came across the lymphatic system. being exposed to that at a workshop that I had attended, oddly enough, about energy medicine, because I was at that time really fascinated by, okay, well, what do cells need in order to repair themselves? Because mine are not repairing themselves.
Yeah.
And it was just looking at energy systems of the body. And I remember being there, and the guy who was teaching the class, who invited me to come because he'd follow my work, and he was actually quite stunned at how unhealthy I looked.
Oh, wow.
Because I really was, I was kind of keeping a low profile. And I said, yeah, I've really been struggling and having a tough time. And he said, well, I think I know what the issue might be for you. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, let me in on it, right? And I remember he said, come on over. And he placed a couple of fingers up at the top of my neck, right behind the angle of my jaw, right where the ear is. And, I jumped, like I literally pulled back and winced because it was so painful. And he did the same thing on the other side. And he said, I think that your lymphatic system is just completely overloaded and stagnated was the word that he used. And I literally remember going, lymph what? I haven't even given that system a second thought since I got out of school, because up in that region there, that's a sweet spot for what we call cervical 1, C1, which is your atlas.
Right.
And, I go there all the time because as a chiropractor, that's usually malpositioned on people or stuck or whatever you want to call it. And then I would just go in there and move it. But not once did I ever think that when I'm putting my finger there, I'm pushing on the largest lymph node in the neck that gets rid of toxins from the body.
Could I interrupt you for 1 second just to explain to the listeners what the lymph system is?
Sure. Yeah. Well, the lymph system is the primary detoxification system of the body that gets rid of stuff inside of you that you don't want to stay inside of you anymore. So
sounds pretty important.
It goes after everything from bacteria to viruses to toxins of all types, cancer cells, anything from the outside world that gets on in there. But it also goes after your own metabolic waste and cellular waste. So when you have injuries to the body, you damage cells.
Right.
And then those cells, either will try to repair themselves, and then you need to make new ones. And then even when you make new ones, you still have to get the old ones out, right?
Right.
And the lymphatic system is the primary job to do that, right?
Okay.
And so it's always basically it's a filter system. And the analogy that I use that most people gravitate towards when they try to envision it is a fish tank.
Okay.
So I call it the body aquarium lymphatic program that I do. So if you have a fish tank, think of a fairly large fish tank.
Okay.
And you've got everything inside the tank. You got your water, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got your fish in there. So fish are now cells, right?
Okay.
And they live in a fluid environment, which is what your body is.
Right.
And if you look inside of a fish tank that's got really good filter system in it, and you see that the filter system is working, there's little bubbles up there, and then the water's moving.
Right.
That keeps things moving, and then it keeps oxygen in the water. And then if you looked underneath the fish tank, you would see this huge filtration system of pipes going from one to the other like that. And that's the system that keeps the fish tank looking really, really nice.
Okay.
Right? But nobody ever sees it because it's hidden away.
Right.
And then what happens if that filter system stops working or doesn't work as well over time, you see the water change in the tank.
Right.
It now is no longer clear. It starts to turn like green looking. And then stuff starts to grow on the glass and it gets all this, what they call biofilm in there. And then you get fungus, you get bacteria, you get nasty things. And then the fish start to get sick too, because they're swimming in waste. And then if you've ever gone up close to a fish tank that has water like that and you look at the fish, you can actually see them really, really big. Their mouths going, they're trying to breathe.
Wow.
And why are they trying to do that? Because when the water doesn't move and gets stagnated, oxygen level in the water plummets.
Right.
And then the fish can't survive.
Oh, wow.
And then they get diseased and then they die. Well, the same thing happens to your cells slowly over time. The water inside of you gets stagnated because the filter system gets overloaded. And then that's when people ask me, how does it get overloaded? Well, that's an easy answer. It's called LIFE, life. Right? And then neglect of not moving enough of yourself, stress that tightens up tissue, and tight tissue doesn't move fluids well. Right. And then we have horrific nutrition, and then toxins hit us from stuff that we can't control, but then the other ones that we stick in our mouth, from the food to the medications. I mean, it's just all over the place, and it's being overwhelmed. And we don't do anything intentionally to help the lymphatic system because we don't pay attention to it. Right.
Right.
Then when it gets overloaded, it doesn't just immediately stop, because if it stopped working, you'd be dead in 24 hours. You would die fast. Okay?
Wow.
But it's slowly over time. And then that's the person who ends up getting things where they get sick all the time and they get chronic pain, and then they feel better for a little bit with something, but it keeps coming back. And this was the answer I was looking for of why stuff keeps coming back. Wow. So I'm going to go back to that analogy.
Okay.
So let's say you have a fish tank that's really toxic, and then your fish are sick.
Right.
So what you do is, okay, most people say, well, I'm just going to take those fish out. I can easily get new fish. I'm going to take all the water out. I'm going to put new water in. I'm going to clean the glass. I'm going to make everything look pretty again. And I'm going to put new fish in there and new water. And then everything's going to be great. But then 2 weeks later, what happens? Same thing.
Right.
Why? Because you didn't do anything to the filter system underneath. So that's what happens to people. They take the medications, they go through the therapies, they do all the things like that, but it makes a difference for a little while. But you didn't take care of the environment that the cells are living in. And you cannot get well in the same environment you became ill within. And so for me, he went through a lymphatic assessment on every major area in the body where we have what they call lymph nodes. And lymph nodes are like small little I call them mini toilets, where you flush them and they're designed to get rid of the waste.
Right.
And if those toilets get backed up, that's not good. You know, imagine if your house toilet got backed up for years at a time.
Right.
I wouldn't want to be anywhere near your house. Right.
Right.
And so, you know, you got to get those cleared out. And every single one of mine were just as bad as the other ones. And
oh, wow.
I just never knew that when I was going and working on those regions where I had tightness or tension or pain, I didn't think of it through a lymphatic lens. And then now that I know, if you don't have the system working well that is controlling inflammation in the body, because inflammation is an immune system response. People forget that. They get a boo-boo on something and they go at it, or they get an injury to a joint. They look at it as a muscle, bone, musculoskeletal problem. Right. No, that's an immune system response, because your immune system is supposed to kick in and do two things. It's supposed to be initially pro-inflammatory, which means it's supposed to kill stuff and make sure that you don't die from an infection, and it swells things and inflames things on purpose. So inflammation is good. If you didn't have inflammation, you would die faster. Right. It's just the chronic inflammation that doesn't go away that makes you sick. And then you got to ask yourself, why in the world is it not going away?
Right.
Right. It's stuck in this perpetual loop. And then the second part of the immune system response is to repair and eliminate waste.
Right.
So here's the thing, if it gets stuck in the repair and inflammation, in waste phase,
right,
it's gonna cycle back to inflammatory phase again, because here's what happens. The waste that can't get out,
right,
now your body looks at as an outside invader, so it attacks those. Wow. So then it just cycles back again and again and again and again, doing what it's designed to do.
Right.
Because we didn't go in but here's my medical term, this is my joke, we unstuck what's stuck. And they're just blocked, right? From neglect, because two things move lymphatic fluid the most.
Okay.
Movement.
Okay.
All types.
Right.
And people are very sedentary. They don't move that much. And if they do move, they usually do the same kind of movement all the time, the one they enjoy. So it's repetitious.
It's true.
And then that can mess you up too, because the body forms lines of stress with repetition, and then fluid moves around those lines of stress.
Okay.
So that's why moving different ways is a good thing. Right. And the other one is breathing through the diaphragm, diaphragmatic breathing, which moves the pump of fluid. And most people don't breathe through the diaphragm.
Right. Like passion.
They've lost the two primary things that move that, right? And then here's what people say. Doc, I move all the time and I breathe through my diaphragm all the time. Why is my lymphatic system still a mess? Because those should be enough.
Right.
But when the system gets too overwhelmed, it can't do it. That's not enough anymore.
Right.
You have to go in there and do stuff by hand.
Okay.
Physically remove that block.
Right.
But then you have to ask yourself, okay, if the lymphatic system keeps coming back, that's an immune system response. You have to ask yourself, why is your body, what's going crazy with your immune system? What's setting it off?
What's triggering it?
And stress is a big one.
So, especially in
stress.
Yeah, especially in today's world. I mean, you can't get away from it, So that's amazing. I know stress and food and, everything I've learned up to beginning this podcast, food, environment, exactly what you're talking about, injury, a lot of things going on in the background of our lives today are just, that seem unavoidable and that really do trigger this, immune response or lack of immune response and this inflammatory state. Unfortunately, I've had to give up ice cream, my favorite food, but, everything I've learned, I mean, sugar is just, death. It's not one of the major food groups like I believe it should be.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a little crushing for you.
It really was. I knew it. I mean, I've always known it, but, to have it proven to me like that was really, really difficult. So how did you, is there something that you would suggest that people could do on a daily basis to sort of help try to keep their lymph moving if they're not at that state or, they don't feel too badly now? Is there something we could be doing to try to make sure that our immune system or our lymph system keeps functioning well?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a phrase that I love. It says that you, capital Y-O-U. Mm-hmm. You can't change something until you become aware of it.
Exactly.
Right. So listen, stuff changes all the time. That's life. But if you want to change it, you have to be aware of it to know that it even exists.
Right.
So the biggest step towards changing your lymphatics is knowing that you have a system and knowing that it needs work. Right. So that's a check the win box already right there. And then I already gave you the two biggest things that you want to do. One is movement. So walking is probably one of the best ways to move lymphatics, because humans are designed to walk and walk a lot and walk long distances, but nobody walks anymore because you don't have to. Right. And
it's true.
Then when we do, we're not walking with what we call purpose. When we walk, we're usually looking down at a phone and we're not swinging our arms.
It's so true.
Steps are short strides, and we're not rotating in the torso, and you're not looking and absorbing the world. So you're usually hunched over. When you're looking at a phone, your neck is tucked forward. You're rounded in the shoulders. You shorten your stride, so everything gets tight in the front of the body. And that's where the main lymphatics reside, the lymph nodes in the front of the body. And here's the cool thing. You've got about 600 to 700, depending on the resources that you look at, lymph nodes, mini toilets in your body.
Oh, wow.
1/3 of that number is from the neck up.
Oh, wow.
So think about it. Now, when I hear that, I'm thinking, okay, why would the universe put 1/3 of those lymph nodes from the neck up? Because the neck up's important real estate. That's what that means.
Right.
Because it's designed to drain the toxins from the brain.
Right. Yeah.
So if your lymph nodes get clogged in your neck, your brain gets clogged.
Wow.
And when your brain gets clogged, I mean, anything can happen in the whole body. That's called brain inflammation. The first sign of brain inflammation is brain fog.
Wow.
Most humans have that, right?
Oh my gosh.
So,
wow.
And listen to this. The most numerous place where you have lymphatics in your entire body is in the gut.
Okay. Wow.
In the abdomen. And that just so happens to be where 70% of your immune system lives, is in your gut. Wow. And once again, the universe is really smart to say, okay, I know the gut is where our immune system lives. So if we have gut problems and stuff breaks through the gut, I have to have a system there that takes care of it. The lymph is the very first system that engages to protect you with anything that you stick into your mouth that breaks through the gut.
Wow.
Right? So if you have a gut problem, you have a lymph problem. If you have a gut problem, you have a brain problem. You have a gut problem, you have a brain problem and a lymph problem. You got all three because they all work together.
Wow.
So in my world, most people have issues in the abdomen, right?
Right.
And then out of the other 700 lymph nodes, we know that movement moves lymph. So once again, the universe is really smart.
Right.
They put clusters of those little toilets around the primary joints of your body that are supposed to move the most: your shoulders, your hips, and your knees.
Wow.
So when you swing your arms or reach overhead, the lymph nodes in your shoulder drain. When you have them in your groin and you walk, right?
Right.
And you swing your leg or you jump up and down. Jumping up and down is one of the best ways to move lymph too. It's like a trampoline. Okay?
Oh, that's great.
You've got a built-in trampoline. They're called your calves, right?
Wow.
Jumping up and down. And the other one is the back of the knee, right? So walking. So think about this. When you sit all day,
right,
you bend your knee and you close off the nodes.
Right.
You sit at the hips and you close off the one in the groin. You hunch and lean over and suffocate the abdomen and the diaphragm. You round your shoulders forward and you choke off the flow in your shoulders. And the other place that the lymph sits is at the top of the neck, right behind the angle of the jaw. And when you round your shoulders and bring your head forward and lose your posture, you choke off the flow. So
Wow.
the human posture chokes off the flow. So what I usually tell people in my program is that if you start to pay attention to those areas that I just mentioned, the back of the knees, the groin, the abdomen, the shoulders, and the neck, you're going to increase the flow. And what I mean by pay attention to is just stimulate, just rub them,
Wow.
and then people say, how do you rub them? And my answer is yes. Like, I don't care. Like,
Right.
rub them up, down, left, right, circle, do the alphabet. You can slap them and tap them. You can do whatever you want.
Right.
It's just, I need you to do that, but I'm going to give you the secret here because you have to do them in a certain order.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because it's really, really important because I'm going to give you what I call the big six, and I'm going to give you an extra one at the end for you because it's really good for helping the emotional centers in the body for anxiety, stress.
Important buzzwords today.
So fluids move in the body with the lymphatics based on pressure.
Okay.
Right? And with fluids, high pressure always moves towards low pressure.
Right.
You can easily envision that if you look at a water dam. You've got a block where the dam is. You got all the water on one side that has high pressure, and you got no water on the other side.
Right.
And if you lift open the dam, the water goes where? To the low side.
Right.
Well, I want you to think of the dam as like a lymph node that's blocked. Stuff just can't get through it.
Okay.
Right? So the highest pressure for fluids in the body are in the feet.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That makes sense, right? Because it's way down. That's why a lot of people get swelling in the feet and the ankles.
Right.
Right. Because that's the furthest away from the heart.
Right.
The other place is at the fingertips.
Right.
Right. So the furthest away is where it settles. Now, the lowest pressure is at the collarbone, the bottom of the neck.
Okay.
Above the collarbone is the lowest pressure in the system of fluids.
Okay.
So that means everything from your hands and your feet want to go to the collarbone.
Okay.
That's where they want to go. Question is, can they get there? Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So what that means is you always have to clear the lymph nodes from low pressure out towards high pressure.
Okay, wow.
Which means this, you never ever start in the feet or the hands. You always start at the collarbone.
Okay.
Right?
Wow.
At the collarbone.
Okay.
So the big six are the 6 places that I'm going to teach your listeners how to do it.
Okay, wow. That'd be amazing. Thank you.
So number 1 is at the collarbone.
Okay.
Right? Above and below, both places. So the first place that I have people rub is I'm going to have you do the left side first because it's closer to the heart and it's where most of the lymph drains to the left side of the neck.
Okay.
You're just going to take your fingers and rub above the collarbone.
Okay.
You can go in circles. I usually tell people just kind of rub circles to clockwise and rub a few circles counterclockwise. And then go below the collarbone and do the same thing.
How much pressure are you giving? I'm kind of following along with you.
Yeah. So when I talk about pressure is just don't put so much that it hurts.
Okay.
Right. I usually say go the light in the beginning and work your way in.
Okay.
Because here's what's going to happen. Right. And let me tell you, let's move the other side first, and then I'll tell you what's going to happen.
Okay.
Right. So now move to the right side. So take your left hand and go above the collarbone on the right and just kind of rub in circles counterclockwise and clockwise. and then go below the collarbone and do it. Right. And then, so you just opened up the drain point. So now things are already starting to move there even more because you opened it up.
Okay.
Now, remember, the lymphatic system gets rid of toxins and metabolic waste, right?
Okay.
It's a detoxification system.
Right.
When that's been obstructed, what we call choked or blocked for a long period of time, it gathers lots of toxins.
Okay.
And when you go rub them, guess what you're going to release?
Toxins.
Lots of toxins, which means that now they're going to have to start to get out of the body. They're going to get out through the lymphatics, but the lymphatics will help dump into other things like the liver and the kidneys. So now you're going to start to get other detox organs that work, where you're going to get them out through going to the bathroom, number one, and number two.
Okay.
You're going to get it out through the skin. So the skin will sweat it out, and you'll get it out through the breath.
Okay.
So why am I telling you this? Because you may have an increase in urination.
Okay.
You may have an increase in number two.
Okay.
Okay. You may have skin irritation. So some people get skin rashes or irritations because now the toxins go out through the skin.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
It's normal. It's normal.
Okay.
I just don't want people to be startled if they break out somewhere. Usually it's along the face.
Okay.
And because better out than in.
Right. Right.
The
Sure.
skin will show the health of the gut a lot of times. And they may get it through halitosis, bad breath.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Because you want to get that stuff out.
Right.
It might not happen, but if it does, and don't be startled, and you might feel just not so good, like you have a little bit of a hangover, a little bit of a cold, because that's getting out of the system. Okay.
Okay.
Just make sure you drink a lot of water, because the lymph is 90% water.
Okay.
And if you're dehydrated, I already know you got a lymphatic system doesn't work well.
Right.
Because it's mostly water. And so are you.
Right.
So you do there. And then now that's number one.
Right.
Then number two, I want you to go up to the top of the neck, as far as high as you can go on the side, right below the angle of the jaw and below the lobe of the ear. There's a little spot there. Right? And then you can do both at the same time. You take a couple of fingers and you just rub up and down right there. Right. And you can even do circles if you want. It's up to you. That's the largest lymph node in the neck. Right. That's number two. Number three is where the shoulder joins into the chest muscle in the front, called your pectorals. And all I want you to do is rub right at the shoulder and the pec, right there. And for people that are watching or just listening, you just rub right over that region any way you want. Circles, I'm going up and down right now. Then do the same on the other side. And then it doesn't take long. You can do it for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever you want. There's no magical number that makes it work better. And then that's number three. Number four is on the abdomen. So I tell people to put one hand on the navel.
Okay.
One hand above the navel. So your hands are stacked on top of each other. And then all I want you to do is rub both of those hands up and down. Right? Up and down. And then this one, you're going to have to hit the abdomen a little bit. So I just want you to take your hands and then hit your abdomen 10 times. Good. That's number four. Number five is the crease of the groin in front, near your thighs. Okay. So I just want you to take your hands. So if people are watching, I'm going to stand up so you can see it.
Great. Thank you.
Just place your hands right at the crease of the groin. And you can go up and down over the groin. You can go in circles. This. Right. And then because this is a bigger area, you need to tap that region. So hit that groin about 10 times.
It's probably better to be standing, I would guess, because sitting, you're kind of choking it anyway. Is that true?
Yeah.
Or it doesn't matter?
You're going to be hard to reach those because they're going to tuck away from you.
Right. Okay, so I should be standing also.
Yeah. And then number 6 will be behind the knees. So you can sit to do that, or you can bend over it, just watch your back. And I want you to rub up and down behind the back of the knee. All right. And then hit the back of your knee 10 times.
Wow.
And then I'll give you that. That's the big 6. I usually tell people to do that once a day.
Okay.
Every day for the rest of your life.
Wow. That's
and
great
then I'm
information.
Give you a bonus that will go in the sternum.
Okay.
And this is one that I learned from studying Eastern medicine and Qigong, which is a form of medical movement.
Right.
And also part of Tai Chi.
Right.
It's what's called a thymus stump. So in the middle of your chest here, right in the center, is your sternum.
Okay.
And behind there, you got a couple of important things. One of them being your heart.
Right.
But 2, your what's called your thymus gland, which is part of your immune system.
Okay.
And that releases some what they call T helper cells in there. But it also, that's my dog. This chest region here is a big place where lymph gets stuck.
Okay.
Gets stuck in the lungs a lot. So usually what I have people do is they're going to hit the sternum 10 times. Okay. And there's a couple ways you can do it. One, you can actually use the heel of your hand against it.
Okay.
Or 2, what you can do is, if you're watching, you can make a fist. And then what you want to do is this flat side where you have the knuckles. And then the heel of the hand, that's the striking part of the hammer that goes here on the sternum. So this is the preferred way. Just make sure that you don't tuck your thumb underneath here. Okay. That's not good. It goes over here.
Right.
And then all you got to do is hit right in the middle of your sternum 10 times. Right smack dab in the middle of it. Wow. This one you should be able to hit pretty hard, but not cause any pain. Right. And then after you do that, you've done the big 6. You hit the sternum. Okay. Then I just have people stand up and then they jump up and down on the balls of their feet for 10 seconds. Okay. And just be careful with this one. In the beginning, I don't want you to totally jump off the ground because a lot of people don't have the strength in the knees or the hips or the back. And sometimes it can cause them to have knee pain or back pain or even head pain. And the fact if they're not used to controlling how the ground impacts through the foot. Right. So all you're going to do is keep the balls of your feet on the ground. Okay. Which is the front part of the foot. Right. And then just take your heels off. It's like you're doing really fast calf raises. Boom. Okay. Just kind of bouncing up and down and bending the knees and yeah. Okay, great. With that one, go up and down like that, and then do that for 10 seconds. Okay. As you breathe in and out through the nose, not your mouth. Perfect. Because that ties into the last thing that I want you to do. Okay. When you breathe in through the nose, it automatically moves your diaphragm muscle more, which moves the lymphatics more. Well, that's great. Because even though I teach people nose breathing, I didn't tie it into making the diaphragmatic breathing better. So that's a good thing to know. Yeah. It's huge. That series,
Right.
it can be transformational for
Right.
some. I mean, I'm talking huge changes for people. And when I usually show it to people out there, they say, "That's it. That's all I got to do." That seems so simple. I'm like, yeah, that's the whole idea. Because
right.
if you make it complicated, first of all, somebody's not going to do it. But effective
100%.
things don't have to be complicated either.
Right.
It only takes the small little things. But here's why that's so powerful.
Right.
The order that you do it in makes a difference on whether it works or not.
Oh, okay.
All right.
I know.
If you don't do it in the right order, you send fluids into places where there's already blocks.
Okay.
And it won't really work as well. Plus, you're hitting all of the major areas where you have big blood flow, big lymph flow, big nerve flow. So those are huge regions that get affected through tightness and tension and stress in the body.
Right.
So if you just do that,
right,
that's a flushing your fish tank like you wouldn't believe.
My mom will be doing this tomorrow. She keeps getting viruses, so she will be learning this tomorrow morning when I go over there and show her this, because she keeps getting a virus. So I know there's something going on with her immune system.
Yeah,
so I'm so excited. Wow.
So, that's the lymph. That's what they do, man. They trap those suckers.
Right.
And
right.
They're doing the best they can with what they've got in the moment that they're in. But once that system gets overloaded,
right,
it needs to get, because that system engulfs things and kills them. Right? I mean, you want to kill the bad stuff, man. Right.
Right.
And then
100%.
You're like, okay, well, once I kill it, can you please get it out? Like, I don't want it anymore. And if you don't get it out, here's the thing. Think about it. Why in the world do people get what they call autoimmune diseases?
Yes, let's go there. Yes.
What does autoimmune mean? That means that they're framing it that your body turns on itself. It doesn't do that, right? What happens is that if you have these waste products that can't get out,
right,
and they stay inside of you, well, then the body thinks that they're from the outside because they're not supposed to be there. And here's what people need to remember too, is that when you eat something, right, your body has to use those nutrients, right?
Right.
And then when cells use nutrients, that's how they make energy.
Right.
And then, well, cells poop too.
Right. Right.
And so once they use that, they got to get rid of it. So here's the thing. Even if you put only great stuff in your mouth, like, God, I don't eat any bad food, it's all perfect. Okay. Right. Well, guess what perfect food turns into poop too.
Right. It's true. And if it can't get out,
I'd rather eat perfect food than junk food.
Right.
But either way, they're going to end up as waste products.
That's right.
And you're going to have the same result if they can't get out. If you eat junk food, you're just going to get there faster. That's all that means. Right.
Right. Absolutely.
So in my world, it's you got to clear the lymphatics first.
Right.
Before you.
It makes everything you're saying makes perfect sense to me. Like really, and really aligns with so much of what I believe in is and it's absolutely, this is really the point of this podcast, was try to really to go out into my community and really empower people to understand that there is so much that they can do, even if you've gotten a diagnosis of cancer or something like that, like you need to understand that beyond the chemo and the radiation, and I'm of course in no way suggesting don't do that, but there is so much that you can do, to take care of your health. So I've sort of taken the tagline of like, God decides when you go, but you decide how you get there. And there's just so much that, isn't in our control, but there is so much that, how exactly what you talked about in the beginning, how we approach things are in our control, and how we respond to things, that's what's in our control. So this is really fascinating. I mean, of your courses, which would you suggest for someone like me, like a practitioner? Which one would you take first? Let's put it that way. Because I made a new
lymphatics without question. So,
okay. I thought you had a few. So,
well, we do.
Okay.
But it's the order that you do it in too, because
exactly that's what I want to know.
If you don't get those lymphatics under control,
right?
My other courses, we're gonna help you,
right?
But you're not gonna get as far because you that's a more important system in my world. So, so all the systems of your body are important, otherwise you wouldn't have.
Right. Exactly.
But some are a little bit more important than others based on one factor. If something goes wrong with them, you die way quicker.
Right.
So
yeah.
So what that means is that your body's gonna do more to protect your lymph system than your muscle system.
Makes sense.
Right?
It makes sense.
Because if my muscles are a problem and it hurts, but I can live. But if my lymph goes, the brain knows, dude, don't let that one go. We're going to be dead really fast. That's not good. We don't want that. Right.
Wow.
So then it sacrifices other things. And so do lymphatics first. And then the second one would be the vagus nerve course, the vagus mojo course. And
okay, good.
The reason that we do that is because a lot of people, when lymph keeps coming back, that means they're stuck in a sympathetic dominant fight or flight mode.
Okay.
And then the lymphatics are ruled by the sympathetics, and their body is so tight and so tense and it can't relax enough for the recovery mode to happen. So they're always in breakdown mode.
Okay.
And you have to go out to the vagus nerve to hit the reboot system, reboot the software.
Okay.
And try to get that going. But here's the beautiful thing. None of the systems in the body ever work alone. They always work together. And
right.
So a lot of times when you do my lymph program, you end up helping the vagus nerve at the same time.
Okay.
Because the vagus nerve wraps around all those primary areas that just had you work.
Right. Okay. Wow. Well, I just yesterday was discussing with my new Instagram friend, Dr. Helen Porat. Shout out to her. We discussed that we're going to take a course together and then discuss it. And so I right away said, well, listen, I wanted the lymph. Like that's the next course I'm taking. So I think the two of us will be taking your course together. And then
that's really by far the most popular one. It's coming back in January because I do online right now because of the apocalypse, the zombie apocalypse. I call it.
Yes, exactly. I call it the plague.
Yeah. And so we used to do those every about 6 to 8 weeks. But the reason that's so popular, I'll be honest with you, is because one, it's simple to do. Two, anybody can come to it. You don't have to be a practitioner. All you have to do is be a human being, and you can check the box on attending. But the reason
that lets out some people nowadays. I don't know.
It's anybody can come to it.
Right.
Self-treatment. You can treat yourself and you can treat other people depending on the level of professional experience. But because people notice such profound changes with it, it's just exploded. Like
that's amazing. Well, before we go, one of the questions I like to ask all of my guests is, what is your view on spirituality? What does spirituality mean to you?
Well, that's an important one. I'll be honest with you. That's something that I lost sight of or faith in early in my life, and because of just so many tragedies, and then I just started to doubt. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
But I found it again, honestly, through my illness.
Wow.
That level of suffering for me was honestly probably the greatest gift I ever got, because it changed how I look at everything. And if I didn't reach that point, I never would have. That's what pain does. Pain, you're never going to change through comfort.
Right.
Why would you? because you're
right.
Right.
You're
And
right.
that's that moment where now you've got the choice. And
Right.
that's when I got it back. And it's also where I really started to see the connection of the role of emotions and in sickness and illness,
Right.
and more so because it helped me confront my own, if you will.
Right.
So it's a huge part of it for me, and because spirituality means something different to everybody, right?
100%.
It's wherever you find it.
Exactly.
I call it it was my sandbar, which means that when I felt alone and like I was drowning, that I had something to hold on to, like a
Right.
sandbar that I could always go back to.
Right.
And it's something that I didn't used to talk with my clients about,
Right.
but now that I know how much is wrapped up into chronic disease and illness and people needing some form of a connection
Right.
to
something. Exactly.
something that gives you meaning and
Right.
and purpose, right?
Right.
So yeah,
That's
that's what it
wonderful.
means to me. Yeah.
Well, that's really wonderful. Where can people find you? Where's the best place to find you if people want to reach out to
Oh,
you
that's
or
really
see what you're
simple.
doing?
Yeah, you just type in "stop chasing pain" on the internet. I'll pop up, and
Right.
I spend most of my time, probably at this point, some would consider an unhealthy amount of time, but I like it, on Instagram.
Right.
That's my favorite place to share information on there. So it's also, everything is under "Stop Chasing Pain" wherever you go. My website will be the central hub that will take you to
Okay.
anything. They have all different levels. So you can go just dip your toe in the water a little bit, or you can go deep into the pool. Just Joe, there's a lot there. However much you want to go, you're always welcome there.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you. It's 2 days before Christmas, and I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you.
And I just want to thank you so much for doing this. I mean, this was just such important information that I know will really speak to a lot of people, and I'm sure help a lot of people get, maybe a little bit of relief, and some easy, thank you for showing how we can, do a little bit of lymph work on ourselves, and I'm sure it will help a lot of people. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I had a wonderful time. Thank you for asking me to be on.
Well, I really appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Welcome back today. I have with me today my friend Yehudis Leiter. Yehudis grew up in a home with a father who was a rabbi and a principal, and a mother who was a nutritionist and a psychoanalyst. She grew up with a good appreciation for both Torah and health. She wrote the book Sensitivity, Please, to promote awareness and lessening emotional pain in children. She helped to establish a Efrat's English-speaking Chabad community. She's the mother of 8 and a grandmother of 8 as well. Welcome today. Hi, Yehudis. How you doing?
Hi, Dara. Good. I'm doing really well. Thank you for asking. Thank Hashem. And thank you for asking me to join your amazing, amazing work. I really like the idea of your podcast. I think it's great that you're bringing health, the topic of health, all these different varied topics to the Jewish community and to anybody seeking religion, spirituality, connection to health in a light manner.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I was really, excited. Yehudis just gets me. When I told her about what I was doing, she right away was able to draw connections and offer me suggestions of different people that I should consider interviewing. And when I discussed with her this topic today with Dr. Perry Nickelston, who's just a fascinating person, she was the one person who easily could draw a connection between lymph and Torah. Everybody else was kind of like, no, lymph, no, don't know, no, it's a good thing. I don't know where it fits in. But she was within minutes able to draw a connection without even trying. So I'm really excited to hear what you have. I know you listened to the interview as well. So I'm really excited to hear what you've got for us today.
Yeah, actually, the interview was fascinating. He's a brilliant man. And when you told me that it would be on the lymph system, my first thought was, lymph, Torah? Okay, let's zoom in on gematria because there's always some fun connection there. And then I delved into it a bit deeper and I realized that there was so much more. And when I listened to Dr. Perry's thoughts, I was amazed by how much the lymph is similar. So,
can I ask you one question? Can you tell people who might not know what gematria is, what that is?
Yeah, sure. So gematria is the numerical value of a word. For example, even taking the ABC, A would equal 1, B would equal 2. And in the Hebrew alphabet, Aleph equals 1 and Bet equals 2, and so on. Once it gets to the tens, Yud would equal 10, and then Kaf doesn't equal 11, but it goes to 20. And throughout, and then till it gets to 100, and then it goes 100, 200, 300, 400.
Okay.
So you would take a word, let's say, for example, lympha, which is the Hebrew word for lymph, and the letters are lamed, yud, pei, mem, pei, hey, has the numerical value of 165. Okay. And guess what? The same numerical value could be for lots of different words, just different spellings that, add up, 2 plus 2 equals 4, 1 plus 3 equals 4. Mm-hmm. So the numerical value of the word nikuda, which is point, is also 165. And that just hit me like, well, hey, the lymph system, even though so many people don't know about it, it's a central point of the body functioning well. And just as the lymph works to keep the body fluids in balance and defends the body against infection, so too the Torah is there in regards to our spiritual self to keep us functioning well. A Jew needs the Torah to function just like the Jew needs, is just as important to man. The Torah is just as important to a Jew as fluid is to man. And we know that the lymph system is what gets the fluids going in our body and helps flush out the waste. And we know that Torah is referred to as Mayim Chayim. So it's for us to function well. Our spirituality is needs to be taken care of, just like our physical body needs to be taken care of. And when I was researching, just to prepare a little for the audience, I came upon the concept that the lymphatic system is one of the least understood and most undervalued of all these systems versus the central nervous system and the muscular system in the body. But if it stopped working, a person would be dead within 24 to 48 hours. And that the lymph system is what defends the body by escorting all the foreign bodies away. Mm-hmm. So the same is with the Jew and Torah. Often the most misunderstood gift that Hashem gave us is the Torah. People think, I can't live with 613 regulations, but it's really not. It's really the GPS. It's our map to keep us safe and alive, and otherwise we would suffer a spiritual death. Mm-hmm. So just like people don't think that they have to clean their lymph system and keep it going, so too they don't realize that we have to keep to the Torah and mitzvos to keep our spiritual self alive. And Hashem gave us the Yetzer Tov to help us filter out all the spiritually unnecessary material.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and another thing I found pretty interesting was that the Rambam tells us that our body is on loan to us from Hashem, and that one of the mitzvahs we have is v'nishmartem ma'od l'nafsho seichem. You have to take care of that body. It was given to you, just like you would take care of anything that somebody loaned you. But Hashem created the body to be able to heal itself and promised us that v'hayashar ba'einav tasef, we follow Hashem's rules. Kol machala lo asim alecha ki ani Hashem rofecha. All you have to do is follow the rules, the guidelines, the principles in the Torah, and Hashem will not bring any sicknesses on you that He didn't bring in Mitzrayim. This is in Parshas B'Shalach, and Hashem ki ani Hashem rofecha. Hashem is the healer. He created the body to be able to heal itself, like Dr. Perry said. If you keep that lymph and all the systems going well, you should have good health. And another interesting thing was with the gematria again. We know that the Torah is considered Eitz Chaim Hi L'Machazikim Ba. It's a living tree to those who hold on to it. Guess what? The word Ha'etz is also 165.
Oh,
just
wow.
like Lympha and just like Nakuda. But if you don't keep to it, Hashem tells us, He will bring another 165 word, Kilala, Kuf Lamed Lamed Hey, which means the curses. So we really need to, like Dr. Perry said, don't fill your body with junk, because the lymph system has to filter out the waste from the good food that you eat as well, and then you need to keep going. And so too, there's enough going on that's permissible that you still need to filter out. You don't have to go to the toxic, unpermissible end of things. And that's pretty interesting to see that, when you think lymph, you don't think there's any connection, but there's really a lot. And when I listened to Dr. Perry, I'm sure you also found it fascinating to hear him explain that there are 6 points that you can stimulate, and that the points are nikudot, and that the lymph system is unidirectional. You have to do the points in the right order, the way he explained, behind the ears, under the collarbone, and then going lower in the body. And then, although Hashem accepts U-turns, there's always room for teshuvah. That's one difference between the lymph and the Torah. Really, if you want to achieve purity, you want to go in one direction, unidirectional. Just like we see when the Jews left Mitzrayim, there were 49 levels of Tumah that they had gone through. And in order to be pure and reach Matan Torah and get the Torah, we had to go through those 49 levels and elevate ourselves one level at a time, going in the right direction. And we have that every year in the 7 weeks of Sfirat HaOmer, leading from Pesach to Shavuos. So that's, again, the unidirectional. And then we don't always see it all, just like in the filter system of the fish tank analogy that Dr. Perry gave. The bubbles are what we see, which is the oxygen. And we know we need oxygen. A Jew needs that Torah and mitzvos. But we don't always see all the pipes and plugs underneath till the algae comes and the fish are dying. And I found that analogous to somebody who was even religious from birth. And we were born into it. We have that ear. We just keep going, walk the walk, talk the talk, but we don't realize that those pipes need to be connected and need to be working well in order to really function well and be able to give us what we need to have an environment where our cells can thrive, our spiritual cells can thrive. We got to make sure all those pipes are there and connect.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty interesting. And when it's all working right, then the lympha can save a life, as we know, and we just learned with Dr. Perry. And there's the famous pasuk, Kalamakayim nefes achas b'Yisrael ki'ilu kiyim olam male. A person that saves one life is as if he saved a whole generation, a whole world. And the word lehatziel, which we know is from the root of hatzalah, saving, lehatziel, is also lamed hey tzadik yud lamed 165.
Wow.
So we have to remember that Hashem gave us a body that can heal and save itself if we don't live on physical or spiritual toxins. And he mentioned also that after the 6 directional stimulation points. You should fold your hand like a fist and hit it over the sternum.
Wow.
That motion is familiar.
Yes.
Every religious Jew that prays 2 times a day in Shacharit and in Mincha, God put it out there. Our sages put it out there. We are hitting our sternum and getting that lymph system moving.
Wow.
So I think that if we follow the guidelines that Hashem prepared for us and we keep our bodies healthy and we give them the nutrients that it needs, both spiritually and physically, we will do well.
Wow, that was amazing. That was really, really amazing. I love how you, excuse me. Excuse me. I love how you fit everything in. Like it fits so beautifully. And I mean, I think, Dr. Perry was just such a fascinating, incredible person. And I just love how you fit it all together. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome. Thank you for sharing all this knowledge that you have and your practitioners have with all of us. It's all there. It's all there. It's all in the Torah. But sometimes we need a practitioner to spell it out for us.
Well, thank you so much. I just love the connections that you drew. And I hope this will be the first of many times that you come on here with me. Like I really appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dara. I appreciate it too.
Thank you. This podcast is for informational purposes only. Please seek guidance from a trusted healthcare professional. By listening to this podcast, you release Holy Health and all of our guests from any liability. This podcast was edited by Joker Productions. Email us at yjokerproductions@gmail.com.